beats are set in your head, that's dead. It's forever music. It's forever music. It's forever music. We survive with pure rhymes. These stars work all the time. Tears for miles, with jokes and wild. We don't forget our impeccable style. It's forever music. It's forever music. Listen up, the doctor's in. Grab the penicillin, cause our beats are sick. In your head they stick. It's forever music. Listen up, the doctor's in. Grab the penicillin, cause our beats are sick. In your head they stick. It's forever music. It's forever music. It's forever music. She's so fine with pure rhymes, things that start from all the time. Till us for miles, the jokes are wild. Don't
Kapla warriors, today is a good day to open a new boxu. My new boxu just arrived. Okay, I think it arrived because I got like a notification that I got a package, and if it's not my boxu, I'm gonna be kind of pissed. Because it is coming by the post office, which usually does not come so early in the day. But I'm really hoping it is my boxu, because that would just be nice, because I'm kind of a little grumpy. Work's been making me grumpy. So happy to be here with my friends. I just realized my chat. Where did my chat go? There it is. So, excuse me. Today, there will be no hand-holding today because it's Star Trek tier list day today. Gonna try to finish up, but we'll see. So we were on season 6, I do believe. I don't think. Wait, we'd made it all the way to season 7, huh? Wait, 6. Oh yeah, 6. Season 6. So, we had already done part 1 and 2 of Time's Arrow, which is end of 5, start of 6, because they always gotta do that. So, today we start with Realm of Fear. I've got it open here in the wiki. That is the episode where, so Barclay is really scared of transporting. And he's like, it's like I'm being taken apart molecule by molecule. And Troy's like, you are being taken apart molecule by molecule. It's like, well, yeah, that's not entirely helpful. Oh, look, they gave it 5 acts. That's weird. Anyway, so then he finally, decides to be brave and go in it. But then he, thinks he sees something in there, and then it flies into his body. And then he's, the funny part in this episode is when he's convinced he's got transporter psychosis, which apparently is something people used to get. Which kind of makes sense, right? Once you get put back together, not quite right. And so the funny part for me is when he asks the computer for the symptoms, and then he's convinced he has all of them, because that's totally me with WebMD. So I like that scene. And in the end, it turns out he really did see something. He was convinced he was crazy, but he actually did see something. There were people trapped in the transporter. They looked like little worm things, but there actually were people trapped in there, and they all get rescued thanks to Barclay. Yay. Yay, Barclay. Probably gonna give this probably C tier. I mean, it's okay. I like Barclay, but I don't think anyone else does. It does have that funny scene. It kind of stresses me out. I really don't like seeing the little worm things fly around in the transporter, because I don't like worms. Man of the People. This is a creepy one. Is that taking me to the next one? Look at. So this guy, he comes on and he's like this mediator, and he comes on with his super old mother who's crazy. And he's clearly kind of into Troy, like most of them are, because she doesn't wear a proper uniform because she wants them to see her figure. And then his quote mother dies, and then he's like, "Oh, can you help me with the mourning ceremony, Troy?" And she's like, "Yeah," but then it turns out the mourning ceremony is actually this thing where he transfers all his negative feelings and his horniness into Troy. But it's too much neurosynapses or whatever, and so it makes her age super fast and be super psycho and horny. And so then they figure it out. So they figure out they have to break the connection between him and Troy through his magic by killing her. So they temporarily kill her. So then he tries to put his feelings into another woman, but before he can do it, they stop him, and then he just like dies and turns to dust. He ages super fast and turns to dust, and Troy super fast becomes normal again. I'm thinking F tier. That episode's terrible. Anybody remember this one? It's awful. Relics. This episode has Scotty. They find Scotty. So they found a Dyson sphere and a ship that had crashed on it, and it turned out Scotty had saved himself in the transporter buffer. So himself and his crewmate who disintegrated, or what do you call it? Like his pattern didn't hold. They discover Scotty and they're like, yay! And then Scotty comes on the Enterprise and he's like, oh my god, a Klingon! And they're like, yeah, that's just Worf. And he's like all confused because it's been like 80 years. Well, I guess not 80. Is that right? 80 years? It's been a long time. And so he's out of date and he's sad because he doesn't know how to do anything on the ship anymore. So he feels like he's a relic. Then the Enterprise gets trapped on the Dyson sphere and he and Geordi save the day. And then they give him a shuttle to borrow so that he can do what he wants. It's pretty good, because Geordi's a total dick to him at first. And it's like, show some respect, Geordi. Come on. This guy paved the way for you. So, gonna give it high B tier. Schisms. I hate Schisms. This is the one I mixed up with the other one, right? Yeah, I got this one mixed up before. So this is a one where, like, several crew members are, like, exhausted. And they're like, what's going on? They're all having these nightmares. Yeah, he does teach Geordi how to be awesome. You didn't tell him how long it would really take. So anyway, then, this one, several crew members, including Worf and Riker, are, like, exhausted. And they're having nightmares every night. So Troy's like, people keep telling me this. Let's go on the holodeck and recreate stuff. So then they recreate this whole thing. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid scene. Computer, create a table. Then they're like, no, that's not right. It's not wooden. And they're like, okay, make this a metal table. Okay, make it this. This is blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, I've been in this room. So they figure out that the aliens are actually transporting these members to their ship each night and experimenting on them. And so then they make it so Riker can stay awake and he stops them. It's super anticlimactic in the end. And I really do not care for it. I'm giving it a D. True Q. Gotta have a Q episode every season. This is Amanda, who was adopted after her parents died in what sounds exactly like Wizard of Oz. In Kansas, there was is it a tornado that they get in Kansas? And it killed her parents, but she survived. And she's on the Enterprise on she won like a scholarship, so she gets to be on the Enterprise. She's super into Riker, who's way too old for her, obviously. And Riker's like, look, we've got laws in the Federation. If I was on a different planet, sure. But not on the Enterprise, sorry. Hey, Gamma. Amanda has the typical futuristic clothing, which is where your dress and your tights and your shoes are all the same color. Monochromatic is what women wear in the future. You consistently notice that in the series. It's the weirdest thing. Like, literally, they've got their dress and their tights and their shoes, and they're all the same shade. It's the stupidest looking thing. Anyway, they figure out that she is, in fact, a Q, because her parents were actually Qs who left the Continuum and had a baby, and the Q Continuum was not into that, so they killed them. And they want Amanda to come join the Q. And Q's like, well, you don't have to as long as you can control your powers and not use them. But then he tests her by, making some disaster happen, and she stops it. And she's like, I couldn't let those people die. And so then she has to go with Q. So it's one of the better Q episodes, I would say. It's not great. But it's okay. Need some water. back really hurts. My back still really hurts from my neck injury. My whole back and neck are all screwed up. But I got physical therapy on Monday, which I'm really looking forward to. Ugh, gotta fix it. That's right, it was the only tornado because they've got like weather controls and stuff in the future. So, and it hit only their house and nowhere else. So that's how they figure out it's pretty sketch. Oh, my back. Okay, this is Rascals, which is a hilarious episode where Guinan, Ensign Ro, Picard, and Keiko were all traveling back from some conference. And then there's like an incident, and then they have to beam them aboard last second. But for some reason, it ages them down to like 10 to 12 years old. And so that's the thing of this episode. It makes for some really weird scenes. I actually think the little boy who plays Picard actually does a really good job. There's the really weird scene though where like Keiko and O'Brien, you know, who are married, she's like, what does this mean for our marriage? And it's just like really awkward to watch. Like, I get that it's supposed to be adult Keiko, but it's still very uncomfortable. It's just weird. Also, they clearly this is a method of immortality, but I guess they just won't be further exploring that. And then, oh yeah, to the age of 12. And so then Picard's like, hey, maybe I'll go back to the academy and I'll do anthropology this time, or archaeology. He's really into archaeology, not anthropology. And, but then some Ferengi take over the ship, which is just embarrassing, because come on, Ferengi. But then the children, they think that, you know, Picard and all of them are children, but with the help of Alexander Rozhenko, they take over and defeat the Ferengi, and yay, and then they get turned adult again. There's one scene that's touching where Ensign Ro, like, she never really got to be a child because she grew up in a refugee camp and both of her parents were murdered by Cardassians. And she's drawing a picture of her mother with crayons, and it's, like, actually really touching. Because she's like, it's funny, I never drew her as a child. And I'm like, that it actually gets me pretty emotional. I'll give it B tier. The kids are actually pretty good actors. Like, I feel like they do a pretty damn good job. Fistful of Datas, I hate this episode. So this is an episode where they're, like, doing some stuff on Data, and it accidentally turns everything on the holodeck to Data, and it turns off the holodeck safety. Yeah, so the Ferengi were supposed to be the main antagonists for TNG, but they, after the very first episode where they were introduced, they were a laughingstock. So that didn't end up happening because they were ridiculous. No one could take them seriously. So computer malfunction when they're doing stuff on Data. They get trapped. Worf and Counselor Troy and Alexander are trapped on the holodeck in this... Well, okay. So it's the Old West, but they refer to it as the Ancient West, which really irritates me because it doesn't make sense to call it ancient. It's not long enough to go to call it ancient. It would have been like, what, 400 years in the past or something from where they are. We don't call 400 years ago from now ancient. So it irritates the hell out of me that they call it the Ancient West. It doesn't make sense. It's called the Middle Ages for us. Actually, the 1600s, is that still, I guess that's Renaissance. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, this is awful because then all the characters turn to Data. They love having, what's the actor's name? Brent Spiner. They love having him play multiple roles. It's like a Tyler Perry movie or something. Like, it's just the worst. Or that Eddie Murphy movie where he plays all the roles. That's what it's like when they do these Data episodes. I hate it. It's awful. And then they get it fixed, and then Worf, like, is gonna have to kiss the Data woman. It's just terrible. It's terrible. F tier. Quality of life. Oh, this is a good one. They have an episode joking about this one on Lower Decks. That's pretty funny. I don't know. Not the best, but it's pretty good. So this woman comes on board with her exocomps, which are these, like, robotic tools that can do all kinds of stuff. So they have, like, a mini, fuck, what do you call the things that make the things? A mini replicator inside them so they can like assess the problem and replicate whatever tool they need. So they're like really cool, and she's like hoping to like get awards and create this stuff. But then Data figures out that they seem to be having developed sentience. So he's like, they're alive like me, and it ends up becoming this big debate. And she's like, they're not alive, you stupid jerk. And he's like, yeah, they are. And then he wants to prove it. And then they get Picard and someone else get trapped somewhere, and only the exocomps can save them. But Data refuses to let them force the exocomps to sacrifice their lives because they're sentient. And they're like, fine, what if we ask the exocomps? And then the exocomps agree to do it, and one of them saves the other exocomps and all of them and sacrifices his life. And then Data talks to Picard, and he's like, hey, you know, I want to talk to you about why I was willing to sacrifice your life for these. And Picard's like, I don't think you need to, you know, I understand. I fought for your rights, and it's the most human thing you ever did, Data. And the woman's like, I don't know what the exocomps are, but I'm not going to treat them as simple tools anymore. So it's a pretty good one. It's pretty interesting. I like it. I'll A-tier it. You know, I love me some Data. You're a good man, Data. Chain of Command. It's so funny. So I think Riker is a total a-hole in this one, and a totally immature. And it's funny because there was an article that popped up in my Google feed recently that was saying that. It was from some website that has regular Star Trek articles, and they're like, Riker was ridiculous in this episode. And I was like, totally. So this is the episode where Picard, Worf, and Crusher are going to be assigned to a special secret mission to like infiltrate Cardassia to stop them from creating biogenic weapons. So they like have to train really hard and in secret for this like super intense mission. And they're going to have to deal with the Cardassians. So they bring Captain Jellicoe on board, who has a lot of experience with the Cardassians, and he knows, you know, how they work. So they bring him on board as captain, and Riker's already kind of ruffled about that. He's like, I could have been the captain. But badass Admiral Nechayev is like, nah, sorry. You don't have Cardassian experience. And Riker's like, oh, yes I do. He's a total baby about it. And then Jellicoe comes on board, and he's being a hard ass, because they've got some serious stuff to deal with, and this is essentially the military, guys. And so he's like, hey, I want you switching from, you know... He has the shifts, like, they have 4 shifts, but he wants to switch to 3 or from 4 to 5, I can't remember. And he wants XYZ done right away. And then, like, hours later, he's like, hey, so have this happen. And Riker's like, oh, I actually never switched the shifts like you told me. And he's like, why not? And Riker's like, well, it would be difficult. And he's like, okay, tough, do what I said. And Riker's like, oh. Like, the whole time, Riker is being such a bitch. He's just being such a whiny baby, and it's like, dude, are you kidding me? And then all the other crew are too. They're like, oh, he's asking us to do so many things. And so Counselor Troy goes and talks to Captain Jellicoe, and she's like, I think they just, you know, I want to give you my advice. I think we just need more time to get to know each other, because they don't have the same trust with you. And Jellicoe's like, yeah, that's great feedback. I don't have time to, he says, I don't have time for a honeymoon with the crew. Like, he can't just hold their hand and be their BFF. Like, this is a serious mission. And so she's really pissed because she's like, hey, you're supposed to take what I say super seriously. And then as she's leaving, he asks her to wear a real uniform instead of her ridiculous uniform, her sexy uniform. And her character's all pissed about this, but the funny thing is, in real life, Marina Sirtis was thrilled that she finally got to wear a real uniform instead of just being a ridiculous obvious sex object on the crew. She gets to, from now on, wear a real uniform. So it's funny, because her character's all mad, but in real life, she was like, finally! So then finally, Riker's being such a tool that he gets taken off duty. They're like, bye, Riker, stop being a baby. Let's see, there's 2 parts of it. I'm just gonna go over both parts at once. And then, meanwhile, Picard's mission was a fake that the Cardassians set up because they wanted to capture Picard. So Worf and Crusher escape, but they capture Picard, and he's being tortured by this guy, Gull, whatever. And so he's being tortured with this awful device where they like insert like a chip or something under his skin, and he's being tortured. And it's funny because the guy eats this, they're like starving him stuff, and the guy eats this thing that's like supposed to be really disgusting, but I'm like, that looks like balut. Looks like balut. And so he is torturing him with this thing. You see the lights where he's like, how many lights are there? And Riker's like, or Picard's like, 4. Yeah, there you go. Exactly, 4. And then he'll torture him. And he's like, no, I'm sorry, there's 5. And so he's trying to torture him and break his spirit so that he'll say there's 5 lights. Meanwhile, back on the Enterprise, they need the best pilot on the crew, and someone's like, well, sorry, that's Riker. So then Riker is a total tool. He goes, Jellicoe goes to Riker and is like, we need the best pilot, and Riker's like, well, then ask me. And, so he makes him ask, and then he does it, and it's like, Riker, you should be fucking, like, you need this on your record. Like, this is so uncool. I just know the truth about Riker is he's just holding out to be captain of the Enterprise. I'm surprised he hasn't, like, had an accident happen to Picard so he can finally be a Enterprise. He's gonna death cake him one day. So, and then, they are able to save, Picard, but the big thing is at the end, they tell him, like, hey, look, we'll release you into Cardassia as a citizen and stop torturing you if you just tell me there's 5 lights. And he's, like, just about to finally do it, but then he gets released just in time. But he talks to Troy, and he's like, he pretty much did break me because I was gonna finally say there were 5 lights. It's a very dark episode, but it's a good one. I messed hearing this guy. Except for Riker. Riker, like, seriously, he should have had, like a mark on his record. Ship in a bottle. So this is when they bring back Moriarty. They had told him they'd work on bringing him off the holodeck, which, don't worry, Moriarty, that'll happen on DS9. Or wait, no, Voyager. So it's coming, Moriarty. But he's pissed because he's been in storage for like 6 years or whatever. And he's really mad because he's like, I stand for Jellicoe as well. Jellicoe's a good captain. Riker just couldn't handle the big leagues. Unless he's the one in charge. He can't handle being told what to do unless it's by his daddy, Picard. Like, because Picard's soft on him. So Moriarty returns on accident because Barclay finds him. And then... Oh, directed by Alexander Singer. Oh, wait, no, I was thinking of Alexander Siddig. My bad. So he gets control of the Enterprise through this whole thing, and then he's got he's got Picard and who? Data and Geordi? And they think they're on the Enterprise, but they're actually on the holodeck. Excuse me. So then they turn the whole thing around on Moriarty, and they put him into a holodeck within the holodeck. What do they do? Well, they trick him into thinking, because he wants to be able to... Moriarty thinks he's been able to... Sorry, I'm not telling this well. Moriarty thinks he's able to come off the holodeck, but he's not really able to. They're all still on the holodeck and they don't know it. Back on the real Enterprise that's not on the holodeck, they're like, we don't know how to do that. Yeah, I don't really want to spend more time on this episode, but basically they trick him into thinking he's off the holodeck with his lover. What's her name? The one from the books and stuff. And they think they're traveling space. Yay! C tier. I don't care for the Moriarty episodes. They're fine. This is Aquiel, where, yeah, as it says here, Geordi falls in love with a woman accused of murder, and it's super inappropriate. What's really upsetting about this episode is in the end it turns her dog is dead, so, like, you think the dog's alive, but the alien entity is inside the dog, and so the dog is essentially dead. So this episode really upsets me, and I typically skip it. I do not care for it. Hi, Erasmus. I feel like there's not much else to say about it. Like, she's accused of murder. She ends up being innocent. She's a terrible officer, but Geordi offers to get her a job on the Enterprise, and it's like, Geordi, come on, she's terrible. And yeah, all I care about this episode is that the dog is not alive. That's a D tier for me. I do not like it. Ooh, Face of the Enemy. This is a good one. It's like really, I don't know, this one's interesting and different. So Troy wakes up and she looks like this. So she looks like a Romulan, and she's like, what the heck? Because she was supposed to have been at a conference. But while she was at a conference, she was captured there by some defectors, Romulan defectors, who brought her, and they did this to her so that she could portray herself as she's on this ship with a Romulan who's been shown before and is used by an actress who's used for numerous roles. I forgot her name though at the moment. Commander. Shoot. Anyway, she's supposed to be a member of the shoot. What's the Romulan group? Someone to help me out. What's the name of the Romulan Secret Service? All the secret services have left my brain. I can't remember any of them because there's the Romulan one, there's the Cardassian one. What is it called? Oh, the Tal Shiar. So she's supposed to be a member of the Tal Shiar, which, thank you. Yeah, so she's the Tal Shiar, which is like their secret service. And so they secretly, on the ship, in these pods, are several high-ranking Romulan defectors that are trying to get into Federation space. The captain doesn't know that they're in there. And so Troy's mission is to get those beamed onto the Enterprise, or like through to Federation space, without being discovered. It's like a hide your defectors. It's an intense episode. But it's really good, and I think it's pretty cool for Marina Sirtis to get such a cool role in an episode, because so often she's just, this is like an actual cool role where she has to like really use like her skills, and she successfully completes her task, but the guy on board who's helping her has to sacrifice himself. She gets them onto the Enterprise, and she gets herself back onto the Enterprise. It's a super good episode. I'm S-tiering this one. Tapestry. Okay. So I read something really creepy about this episode recently. So Tapestry, this is the one where Picard gets hurt on an away mission, and his heart, his artificial heart gets damaged. So Picard, they've mentioned his artificial heart before, but not how he got it. He got it because he was a young punk cadet and got into a fight with some Nausicaans, which, if you watch the shows, you know you should not mess with Nausicaans. Yeah, totally, Erasmus. It was a cool role, and it stretches. She got to really show her acting skills more. She's a great actress. They just kind of pigeonhole her in a lot of episodes. Is that the right use of that word? I'm not very good with, like, idioms and stuff. So he got it because he got in a fight with some Nausicaans, and they stab him in the heart. And he laughs, but they luckily managed to save him. I want to bring up, though, what his stupid heart looks like. They show it in the episode, and I'm like, this is terrifying. What the hell is this? Picard, artificial heart. His artificial heart, let me see if I can find an image, because they show it. Q, like, holds it up, and here he is. Look at this thing. That is what we have in it's the 2360s, right? Typecasting, there you go, that's better. Typecasting, thank you. I'm not good with those kind of things. Look at this. Look at this artificial heart. That is what we have. We have better stuff than... I guess we don't have artificial hearts these days, but we could give him a pig heart, probably. Like, this is a piece of crap. So it always cracks me up. So anyway, Picard's like, oh, if I'd known better back then, I'd still have a regular heart. So Q's like, let's find out. And he basically does like a... kind of like It's a Wonderful Life, and he sends him back to the time that he was that ensign right before the thing happened. But the creepy thing I read recently, so there's his two friends, it's like Marta and something else, I think, are his besties. So apparently, so he ends up having sex with Marta. And in the past, he still looks like this, so we know he's Picard, but everyone else is seeing him as like 18 or whatever. But what's creepy is, Patrick Stewart was in like his 40s or 50s. The actress that he has sex with in the episode, who plays Marta, was 17. I know they didn't really have sex, but they did kiss, and it's disturbing. So anyway, yeah, he lives through it, and he tries to do it differently and be like, no, I gotta be different, I gotta be sensible, but then he just pisses off his friends, and in the end, he fights the Nausicaans again, and he gets stabbed, and he laughs just like before, and so, then he comes, and then he comes back to life in the Enterprise, medical, oh my god, words. Where do they do medical things? Jesus. Drugs. The medical bay. And he's laughing, and so then they're like, I think Q saved your life, and he wanted to show you that, you know, it's a wonderful life, basically. It's okay. It's not my favorite. I'll give it B tier. Some people probably like it better, but I don't love it. It's called Tapestry. Sick bay, thank God. The people who cast her knew she was 17. I'm sure they knew. So it's called Tapestry because he's like, I pulled at one thread and it all came undone. Oh, I missed an important part of it. I'm an idiot. So what happens is he discovers that because he didn't take stupid risks as a teen and a young man, in the future he becomes a man who doesn't take risks. So he's just a lieutenant science officer, and he's just not the same man, basically. Sorry, I missed that. So that's why it's a wonderful life. Is they're like, look what happened when you did things different. You don't know why they would do that? Because Hollywood's sick. There's a lot of instances of that. I learned about that in a compilation of instances of that. BuzzFeed. Birthright. Oh, here's another great example. Of borderline pedophilia. So Worf, they're on. So this is the cross episode. So this is the Force. And this is the first crossover episode with DS9. So O'Brien gets left on DS9 for his new job. And while he's there, Uridian comes up to Worf and is like, I know where your father is. And Worf's like, he's dead. And he's like, nah, he's in a prison camp. And Worf's really mad because Klingons are never supposed to allow themselves to be taken prisoner. If they are taken prisoner, they're supposed to commit suicide. So if his father's alive, it's a dishonor, but he decides to go ahead and go with the Uridian and find out. And then he discovers there is a camp, but his father's not there, and it's actually not a prison camp. It's where the Klingons that were taken prisoner are living peacefully with a Cardassian officer. Not Cardassian. Romulan officer who fought to keep them alive. And he meets this girl. But they're like, sorry, Worf, you can never leave because you can't tell people about us. And all the young Klingons there don't know anything about Klingon culture. So Worf starts teaching them, and then the youth are like, oh, we're in touch with our roots. We want to leave. And then this girl here, who she's young. She's much younger than Worf. And it's disturbing, but he develops a bit of a relationship with her. And it's not right. And then, so they finally agree, and they're gonna execute Worf, but finally they're like, ugh, because then all the young ones are like, we won't let you execute him, so they're like, oh, fine. So then some of the Klingons get to leave, but some of them stay, and then they have to promise never to reveal the truth about where they came from. At the same time, there's this really stupid thing with Data, where Data starts having dreams, and then he has a vision of Dr. Soong, and Dr. Soong's like, hey, you've reached the point where you can dream. I was gonna say breed, that is not what I meant. You can dream now, Data. It's like, try again, Data, you're the bird. So I always have that quote in my head, you're the bird, Data. It's kind of silly. That part is silly, in my opinion. The Worf stuff is fine. I would say high B tier. Hey. Next is, what the heck is that? Oh, this is a weird one. Whoops. Two-parter. This is a weird one where, there's a guy in it who's just got a small role, and it's the Tuvok actor, whose name I can't remember at the moment. So they've all evacuated the Enterprise, because it's gonna have some, they're gonna do something, they're gonna do some kind of sweep of it, to clean it or whatever. But Picard goes back because he needs his saddle so he can go horseback riding. And but then there's these terrorists who are gonna steal stuff from the Enterprise. So it's kind of like it's a very Die Hard-esque episode. where Picard is what's his face from Die Hard. And so he stops them and then gets saved at the last minute. But the funny thing is, like, back on the planet, they're all having to interact with this guy that they can't stand because he just does vacant small talk all the time. But it's funny because then Data's like, oh, I can learn about small talk. And he's like doing these funny faces and it's really hilarious. So I enjoy that. It's okay. I would give it B tier because I do enjoy the funny thing with Data. Ooh, this is a good one. Lessons. This is when Captain Picard... This woman is the best suited for Captain Picard, in my opinion. This is Lieutenant Darren, who he meets... Oh, yeah, so he meets her in the night when she works in astrometrics, right? Astronomy. She's an astronomer. And they're studying something. And then... I haven't seen all 4 movies all the way through, actually, Turtle. Sorry. I don't like things messing with the canon of the show. Anyway, and then... he meets her, and she teaches him about Darjeeling tea, and then she's into music, and so he falls in love with her, and then they have some trouble because he's, like, really, he plays his flute, and she plays her piano, and it's, like, really special to him because he'd never shared his flute with anyone, his music playing, and he's uncomfortable having a relationship in front of the crew, but then what happens is this, like, something that seems like it would never happen, but it happens, is she has to go to a planet to try to save it, and then in the end, it looks like she's been killed, because they're trying to stop this, what is it? It's like, what is the phenomenon? It's like this big, it's terrifying, like, fire thing, and because she's, for some reason, they need an astronomer as part of this, which I'm like, well, this would never happen, but, so she gets stuck there, and a lot of them die, and he thinks that she died because of his order for them to stand their ground to protect the colonists or whatever. And he's, like, devastated, and he feels terrible guilt. Yeah, firestorm. It's really scary. But it turns out she survived, and then he's like, oh my god. I'm getting emotional. Sorry, it's, you know, an emotional time of month. And then she's alive, and he's like, you know, I can never send you into something like that again. She's like, well, if I stay here, you might have to. And I'm like, you would not. You'd never have to. This would never happen. So she leaves the ship. She asks for a transfer. Which I think is BS. They should have... I just hate that. I hate that they decided to make this an episodic thing. Because I think them continuing their relationship would have been really interesting. And, because their relationship is more compelling than the nonsense will they, won't they with Crusher or with Vosh, who just seems weird. Like, they were interesting together to me. So I think they should have kept her around for at least a couple episodes. I hate that they didn't. I'll say A tier. I don't know that it's an S tier, but it's an A tier. But yeah, it just bugs me, because I'm like, come on, guys. What is... Oh, God. Sorry. This is... Okay, so this one's funny because this is clearly the actress who plays the female changeling on DS9, right? And she looks very similar to the changelings on DS9. Oh, I know, this episode, Turtle. So this is the one where Picard's archaeology teacher comes on board, and he's like, I found this awesome thing, come do it with me. And Picard's like, ugh, I would really love to, but I'm gonna stay on the Enterprise. And then his professor gets murdered, and they're like, what the heck? And they determine that he's got this piece of this puzzle. It's like a genetic puzzle, they figure out. And there's the Romulans and the Klingons and the Cardassians all also know about this puzzle. So they're all racing to try to solve the puzzle first. And see where it leads them. And it's right, Charlemagne, it totally makes sense, because I thought that's what it was supposed to be, because then in DS9 they're like, oh yeah, we sent changelings out all over the universe. And I'm like, that's like the same... Okay, let me finish and I'll get there. Sorry. So then they go and they all finish the puzzle, and like all at once they get to this cave area and they finish it, and it creates this image of this woman. She's like, we're your ancient ancestors. We explored space and found ourselves alone in the universe, so we sent our genetic information all over the universe, and it became all of you on different planets. So they're like the original humanoid who gave rise to humans and Klingons, Cardassians, all of them. And then the Klingons were like, "Are you kidding me? I thought this was gonna be a weapon. This is BS." And then the Cardassians are like, "That's gross," because she's like, "You're all come from the same place. You're all at the core, you're same." And the Cardassians like, "That's disgusting." And then Picard goes back, and then the Romulan calls him, and he's like, "Hey, maybe we aren't so different after all." And it's like, wow, beautiful. Oh, it's a seabed. Thank you. But it's annoying because it's like, she looks just like the changelings are gonna look. And then, it is a good explanation for why all the humanoids are basically exactly the same, except they maybe have different ears or foreheads or some spots. But it's also like, the changelings established that, like, they sent their changelings out all over the place. So I'm like, it's like the same concept. Why didn't they just connect the two? So I would say, canon-wise, it's appealing. I'll give it a B. I don't love it, but it is... I appreciate them explaining things. Next, I hate this one, if this is the one I think it is. Yeah, I hate this one. It stresses me out, and I just hate it so much. This one is Riker's in a play on the Enterprise where he's playing a crazy guy. But then it keeps, like, flashing, and it's like, wait, he is a crazy guy. And then it's like, he's not a crazy guy. And then he's having visions of the Enterprise, but he's trapped in an insane asylum on another planet. And it turns out, on an away mission, he got captured, and they put him into this insane asylum and are trying to convince him that he's insane. Excuse me. And they pretty much succeed, but then in the end, the Enterprise saves him. And so, for, like, a cathartic experience, he goes and he destroys the scenery of the play that he was in. I hate this one. I hate it so much. It's F tier for me. It stresses me out. It confuses me. I just hate it. It's so stressful. Suspicions, another one I don't care for. The stupid... Guinan is a terrible character. She's just always has like these ridiculous roles in the episode, and this is a perfect example. So Dr. Crusher calls some scientists on board to try to highlight the research of this Ferengi, because she wants to support him because he's a Ferengi scientist. And so some Klingon scientists come, and some Vulcans, and some other guy that I don't remember what species he is because they aren't around much. And he's gonna fly into the corona of a star, and he's confident he's got the technology. So then they test it out. One of the scientists volunteers to test it out, but he dies. So then the Ferengi's disgraced, and he's like, it really should have worked. I don't know what went wrong. But then he seems to have killed himself, and Crusher's like, he didn't kill himself though. This can't be true. I don't believe he killed himself. I think he was killed. So they're trying to figure out the whole thing, and Dr. Crusher's not supposed to do an autopsy because it's against Ferengi culture, but she does it anyway, so she's in big trouble. But then Dr. Crusher's like, I'm still not letting this go. So she goes into the machine to go into the corona of the sun to prove that it works, and she does. But then all of a sudden in the back seat is the other alien. So the one that they thought died, not the Ferengi, but the other one that tested it, he faked dying because he didn't want the Ferengi to have his technology work and succeed. And so yeah, she's vindicated, but technically she's still violated regulations and ethics. I do not care for it. C tier. Oh, this one frustrates me too. That is Kahless, whose name was originally pronounced Kales the first time he's mentioned in this show. And whose name is very similar to Kahlest, who was Worf's nanny as a child. So Worf's having some religious issues. His faith is shaken. Or I don't know, whatever, his faith. So he goes to a monastery to pray, and then he has a vision of Kahless. But it's not even a vision, he's real. Yeah, I know, they do. They just sell the desiccated... Yeah, so it doesn't make sense. But I think they hadn't established that lore yet, Charlemagne, that's why. So it's Kahless for real, and everyone's like, how could it be Kahless for real? Because this is basically Klingon Jesus. And they're like, it can't be, this can't be. But they like test him, and genetically he is Kahless, and they're like, yay. But eventually, and so then they're like, Kahless is gonna take over the Empire, and Gowron's like, nah, I'm the head of the Klingon High Council. And then they figure out that this isn't the real Kahless, it's a clone. They were able to clone him from genes they got off something that belonged to Kahless. So this is the next step of Worf being the most important person in the Klingon Empire and Klingon politics. He's like, he decides Kahless will become the new emperor. Gowron will remain the head of the Klingon Council. We're going back to the old ways to bring back old values. And everyone's just like, okay, Worf, we'll do whatever you say, always. So kind of, honestly, I do not... This is a D for me. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. And it just really irritates me. Worf has an inexplicable amount of power, especially for someone that did not spend most of their life on Kronos. This is the one where they go back to, so there was this mission where Riker very quickly gets, he's heroic, and so he gets, promoted very quickly, which leads to his breakup with Deanna Troi, and he breaks her heart, because he sucks. And, it's 8 years ago, and they go back to the planet, and they discover, what? There's another Riker there. Turns out that when Riker beamed away, it made a Riker clone. Well, not a clone. They're both Riker. And Riker just can't get along with anybody, so he really can't get along with himself. And this poor Riker has to deal with the fact that there's this Riker who's, like, achieved all his dreams. But the old Riker's like, I can't believe you gave up Deanna, and so they have a relationship. And they love each other. But then in the end, he's like, I can't stay here with this other Riker, Deanna, come with me. And she's like, no, I'm gonna stay. Yeah, it's stupid. And then he decides to go by Thomas Riker, which is their middle name. And he appears in one episode of DS9. He should have appeared in a second episode years later, but they decided not to do that, which I think is dumb. Timescape. So this one, Picard, Data, LaForge, and Troy are returning from a conference. But time keeps freezing. And they're like, what the heck is going on? So then they get back to the Enterprise. And then the Enterprise is also frozen in time. And directed by Adam Nimoy. That's cool. And then they get aboard. And they're all frozen. And it looks like the Romulans are attacking them. And by the way, Red Letter Media bought the scraps of the exploded Enterprise and refurbished them. It's pretty cool. It's not a full size, obviously. Well, there is no full size Enterprise. What am I talking about? So anyway, so they think that the Romulans are attacking, and so they're like trying to fix everything, but they're also getting psychosis. So that's why Picard drew a smiley face and is cracking up, which is pretty funny. Then he starts screaming. So at the end, it turns out actually the Romulans weren't attacking them. They were all working together, and the time freezing thing happened because of something. I don't love it. I'd give it B tier. It's okay. All right, this is the last one I'm gonna do for today because I slept for like until 30 minutes before I started today, so I'm a little behind. I need some stuff. Gotta do some stuff. But anyway, this is Descent. So you guys remember Hugh, the Borg that they decided to release back to his cube? Well, because Hugh had discovered his humanity, when he went back to his cube and connected, they all discovered their humanity, and then they just fell apart because they didn't have like one mind anymore. And guess who found them? Lore. Lore found them. And Lore is using them for evil purposes, and he's experimenting on them because he's trying to make them like him, I think is what the goal was. So there's Lore and the Borg, and then there's also some underground Borg who are led by Hugh. They go to try to stop him. I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah. My brain. Lore convinces Data to stay with him by controlling him, by giving him a taste of emotion. So because Lore has the chip that Dr. Soong created for Data. So he's using the chip to give Data just a little bit of emotion. And so he's controlling Data with that because it's like a drug for him. He's finally getting to feel it. But but he's like kind of evil because Lore's only letting him feel like hatred and anger and stuff. I'm tired. And then they're trying to free Data from Lore's control and stop Lore. And then Riker and them get Hugh and the others to help them. And so they help them. And then in the end, Data, you know, stops being evil and comes back. But he was almost gonna experiment on Geordi. And so in the end, they're on the Enterprise, and Geordi's like, what are you gonna do with the chip? Data's like, I'm gonna destroy it because this chip made me almost hurt you. And Geordi's like, I'm your friend, I can't let you do that. Maybe you're not ready right now, but someday you can have it. I can't let you give up your chance at emotions. The end. I like that they bring back Hugh. Oh, this has one of my favorite quotes ever. Because they find out the Hugh thing and everything. So Admiral Nechayev comes aboard. I think this is the one. Admiral Nechayev comes aboard and she's like, tell me again why you let Hugh go? And Picard's like, well, he discovered his humanity, so I felt, you know, ethically I didn't have the right to, you know, keep him. And she's like, your job is to safeguard the lives of Federation citizens, not wrestle with your conscience. If an opportunity to destroy the Borg should arise again, you are to take it. Because the original plan was to plant a virus on Hugh that would destroy the Borg. And so Picard's like, yes, sir. And I'm like, damn right. Like, I'm sorry, screw your ethics, Picard. This is why Picard is the best peacetime captain, and Sisko's the best wartime captain. Sisko would not have hesitated. He would absolutely have put a virus on Hugh and sent him back. Sisko's willing to get his hands dirty and live with it, but Picard's not. So I love Admiral Nechayev. She's a badass. She's in at least one episode of DS9. She's never evil. And so I love that quote. So yeah, I'm trying to think what my favorite episode from that season is. It might be what's the name of the one with the Face of the Enemy? That might be my favorite. That one's pretty cool because that one doesn't have any aspects that, like, I like the Jellicoe ones, but it pisses me off because Riker's such a tool in that one. I like the one with Ensign Darren, but I'm frustrated at the Innkeeper, so I think Face of the Enemy is really a solid episode. It's the only, I gave it S tier along with Chain of Command. But yeah. All right. So thanks for joining today. Before I take off, I'm gonna preview my next project to you. It's a spin-off of Crown and Crew. Otter, that's beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's like poetry. So I'm gonna preview my next project real quick, and then I'll see you again Monday night at 8.
Romance. It's the centerpiece of oh so many great stories. And what's better than one romance? A love triangle. Well, actually, a harem would be even better, but this isn't high school DxD.
Boomer alert. Boomer alert.
Chime, I told you not to have Kilo install the boomer alarm. As I was saying, what's better than one romance? Why, a love triangle, of course. But when is a love triangle actually just a delusional, brain-damaged toddler clinging on as an unwanted third wheel?
Hey!
Tonight, the kingdom investigates who is really Nikke's main heroine, and the results will shag you.
It's Shock, my king.
Oh, right. I knew that. Wells, just hurry up and play the video.
I'm Chime.
I'm Marion.
I'm Kilo.
I'm Wells. I'm Trony.
I'm Crown. That story tonight on The Royal Hour.
All right, so yes, that is my 60 Minutes parody. For any of you that don't know, 60 Minutes was big in like the 90s. Is this show, and mostly known for its TikTok little logo thing, and they would just interview people, and it was very serious. So yeah, join me on Monday at 8 to await the birth of my next child, either Eleanor or Roderick. And this will come out at 11 a.m. on Monday. So join me then as well. All right, have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.